This is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.
It is the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Hope you're having a good night on this Cowboys Sunday night, because the Cowboys did not have a good enough night. They fall to the Minnesota Vikings on this night by the final score of 34-26. The Cowboys come in as a 6-point favorite, and they lose by 8. I'm not very good at math, but I know that that's not good math. I'm joined by our Michelle Montaine. And Michelle, what you got cooking on the show tonight for us?
Well, Joe, let's get right into it with what's on the show. Well, what is on the show is that we're going to talk.
Here's what's on the show, sponsored by NFM.
Joe just alluded to it, but we are going to break down this 8-point loss to the Minnesota Vikings. I would say the Cowboys were just doing what the Cowboys do best. They give their fans just enough hope to keep them hanging on, and then ultimately disappoint. So with that, now Joe, who's on the show?
Well, listen, you're obviously on the show, but we're also going to bring in our NFL analyst, because he's going to have to explain to us how the Cowboys figured out a way to not be good enough again in a season that has been filled with games, unfortunately, that have been like this. It is the one, the only Glenn Stretch Smith, our NFL analyst. Coach, let's just start with this. In a season of disappointments, how would you rate the disappointment of this night?
Well, I mean, it's huge, Joe. I mean, we come in here tonight, we come into the studio, and everybody's kind of thinking, hey, this team's fixing to win out. And what's the path for the Eagles to lose 2 of the last 3? And how are we going to figure out how we can get some pressure on Jalen Hurts? And is Daniels going to be ready to play? And you didn't even mow your own backyard. They didn't take care of their own backyard tonight. And I think that's the most disappointing thing for Cowboys fans. It's we've got 3 games left of this season, and for all practical purposes, it's over with.
No, I think you're right. And I think it starts with what has been the worst part of this season for Cowboys fans all year, and it's that Cowboys defense with another absolutely disappointing performance where they make J.J. McCarthy look like he knows how to play football in the NFL all of a sudden. I mean, this is a quarterback who has struggled so much, and an offense for the Vikings that has struggled so much. They had a league-high 19 interceptions thrown coming into this game, and when McCarthy throws that interception on the first drive, you're thinking, okay, all right, maybe the Cowboys will have something cooking. They can work on their awful plus-minus ratio and the turnover differential. But no, J.J. McCarthy throws for 250 yards, couple of touchdowns, has a 108 QB rating. And, Coach, how does he look that good?
Well, for one thing, they protected him. And for the second thing, this Dallas secondary continues to play with really poor leverage. It's something I don't understand. I'll admit I'm an offensive guy. But things from a leverage standpoint, to me, start day one in OTAs. You know when that was, Joe? A long time ago.
It was.
And now we're still talking about the same, what feels like just inability to get lined up. It's a maddening situation.
It is. Michelle, what jumped out most to you about the way that McCarthy was able to operate on this night?
Well, I thought the fact that the Cowboys really couldn't get pressure on him consistently. There were times when they did. I think you expect a little bit more from this defensive front that the Cowboys have actually invested in now. And yes, they're probably stronger on the interior of that defensive line than their pass rushers on the outside, but they should still, as a unit, be able to get more pressure on a guy. I know J.J. McCarthy is a mobile quarterback, but still, that's not enough of an excuse, especially when you consider how he's been playing up to really last game for the Vikings, but really up to this point in the season. They should have been able to do more because, as Glenn just pointed out, I mean, this secondary is – the secondary struggles, yes, but then the linebacking unit, like they need more from that level as well. DeMarvion Overshown leading the team in tackles really comes probably as no surprise, even though he's coming back from a horrific knee injury. But they need more from what they did was they changed up their starting linebackers, you know, Logan Wilson getting his first start, but still it really didn't result in enough production from that unit. And then of course the secondary just, there were moments, you know, Donovan Wilson, good start, but just all together, it's not working. And we got to listen to Jerry Jones afterwards say, yeah, I mean, I really did expect a better showing from this defense, considering what we've invested in it at this point. And he went as far as to say, I also expected us to play better against Detroit. Like, this is 2 straight games where, you know, the defense just has looked so uncohesive.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because we saw the kind of level of play that this defense needs to be successful when their backs were absolutely up against the wall when they were down 21 to the Eagles. There was a certain desperation. There was a sense of urgency. And I thought I saw some of that at the beginning of this game with the way they played the run and with how they got the pressure early on in this game. But for whatever reason, this team cannot sustain that level of play. And you know, this season is all but done now. I mean, they're virtually out of the playoff chase. They have to win out, and the Eagles have to lose out. Newsflash, that's not going to happen, right? So virtually the Cowboys season is done in terms of trying to make the playoffs. And now you have to go into this mode where you begin to evaluate for the future of this team. And, Coach, I do think that begins with the defensive coordinator. And so I put it to you, have we seen enough to know that he can't turn it around? Have we seen enough to know that he needs another chance? How do you gauge it so far? And I know it's not fair because you probably haven't had a chance to really look at the film from this game, the all 22, but I'm just first blush, what do you think?
Well, I do believe this. I mean, they had issues lining up to 12 personnel early in the game. You saw the head coach had to, run down the sideline, take a timeout. He, looked like he was ripping somebody on the defensive side. We're too late in the year to be talking about the things that we're talking about. That we're way too late in the year. I'm not to advocate firing anybody in the National Football League because I know how hard it is to coach at this level, and I know how hard it is to get it done. But at some point, they're telling you they don't have any answers. I mean, I don't know how many times you have to watch it on film to understand they can't even get lined up correctly. And that is so bothersome to me that tells me that the secondary coach who he brought for Chicago are not on the same page. And then Michelle talked about it earlier. I mean, he's a linebacker guy. That's what he coached here before. And it looks like the linebackers are just as lost as the secondary is. And so, guys, I think at the end of the year, you're going to have to take a hard look at this. You're going to have to self-scout it. And you're going to have to make a decision one way or the other as to where you want to move on with this style of defense and what he wants to do, which is not play as much man coverage. He's his own coverage guy. He's not a big gamble guy, and you got to decide if that's what you want.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Coach. And when you think about that linebacker level with their lack of great play, and remember, I mean, the reason that Kenneth Murray is a Dallas Cowboy is because of Matt Eberflus. And Kenneth Murray has been spectacularly awful with the way that he's played, especially these last few weeks. I mean, when you look at the way that they graded him in Pro Football Focus, I mean, we're talking about 92nd out of 95 linebackers. I mean, all the way at the bottom. So there are just a lot of questions that have to be answered. There's not a lot of season left to get real hard data. And once you're out of the playoff chase, in my mind, it's hard to even put a lot of emphasis on it because it's kind of meaningless in the larger scheme of things. I want to see how you play when the pressure's on, not when the pressure's off.
What are you thinking, guys? Are going to go dust off their golf clubs and get ready to go to the country club, Joe?
They'll be there pretty soon, Coach. I might be there too with the way this team is playing.
They may fire me in here. I might be right there with you.
No, you're not going anywhere. In fact, we're going to take a quick break, and Coach is going to come back, as well as Michelle and yours truly, because we do have to talk about Dak Prescott and that Cowboys offense. They may have got out-schemed tonight as well. That's up next on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show.
Today's headlines, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers.
No headline bigger than the Cowboys losing to the Minnesota Vikings 34-26 the final. They now fall to 6-7-1 on the season. They're virtually eliminated from playoff contention after another tough loss, but there were some other headlines from around the NFL, Michelle.
Yes, certainly. Out of Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, the league-leading quarterback, the face of the NFL, suffering a torn ACL. It was actually one of several really big injuries to some really big names around the league today, Joe.
Yeah, former Cowboy Micah Parsons also feared to have suffered a torn ACL on this day. A couple of huge names in the NFL, a couple of big-time injuries that could go into next year as well. All right, let's get back to the Cowboys, though, Coach, because we need to talk about Brian Schottenheimer and Dak Prescott, who have in tandem allowed that offense to play so well this season. Dak Prescott, that is, coming off of 3 straight 300-yard games. On this day, he throws for 294 yards, but 0 touchdowns. In the red zone, they were not good. 2 for 5, only 40% in terms of scoring touchdowns. They miss a couple of field goals. And Dak Prescott, who has been playing so well on third down, he and that Cowboys offense, they were just awful. They go 2 for 12. That's a measly 16% on third down. Coach, when you look at how that game played out, what was the biggest issue in terms of dealing with Brian Flores and all of his exotic pressures?
Yeah, no, that's exactly the stat that I asked you to when we were down in break. I said go to third down conversions, because it wasn't like Dallas was turning the football over. But when you are running against a team that plays a lot of inverted coverages, for instance, you've got a guy, the safety, that's down hard in the box, and he looks like he's either blitzing or he's playing the run, and just before the snap, he blows out of there and goes and plays a high half. He plays the third, or he comes. And so he was constantly leaving you guessing and Dak guessing in a very uncomfortable position. But here was the key, fellas. I'm sorry, when you can't run the football, and when you're not able to run against a team that is playing a lot of those exotic looks, they're just going to pin their ears back and come after you. And that's exactly what you saw them do. And then when Thomas went down, Adinajai came in the football game. Hey, there was no threat of running the football. They're just blowing it up the field. And it was a really, really tough evening to watch. And on the third down conversions, that's as bad as it gets.
I think what was really interesting about that, though, was coming into the game all week, what we heard about was, how good Dak Prescott is against the blitz, how good he's played all season long when it comes to deciphering the different looks the defenses have been throwing at him. He's in year 10. That experience is starting to show, and he's done such a good job at some of those pre-snap decision-making situations that has allowed them to still be a really good offense despite all of the different looks that he's getting from different defensive schemes. So that, to me, coaches, we were watching the game together, like you were calling it out. He looks so confused. He's not seeing what's coming his way and what isn't. And obviously not being able to run the ball plays into that. But I was surprised because in talking to Dak this week leading up to the game, he felt so confident about how he's been playing this season and how he's been able to decipher the defensive looks that have been thrown his way. And we didn't see, I think, what people expected to see out of him in this game. And it certainly felt like Brian Flores was the one who won the chess match.
No question about it. I'm sorry, Joe, but when you think about this, Dak Prescott is best when you can run the football and play action off of that. That's when he's the best. And when there's no threat of running the football and then you can't play action, the defense doesn't have to react to the run in that situation. And so that's what became so difficult. I think Dak's done a heck of a job all year and has made strides with the head coach, who is the offensive coordinator. But tonight, they got out-schemed, and that's what you have to do. Sometimes you eat the bear, and sometimes the bear eats you, and tonight you got eaten by the bear.
And, Coach, I was going to make the same point, because when the Cowboys were able to get in some of those play-action situations, that's when they thrived. And Dak was able to find CeeDee Lamb open a couple times, especially when they would put a little zone look deep, and then he would find CeeDee wide open. CeeDee ends up with 111 receiving yards on this night. George Pickens with another tough night, 3 catches for 33 yards. That was all he had. So another tough night for him, kind of like the last night against the Lions, although I do think there was a lot more effort involved. No issues there in terms of the way he played. But the other thing, and I think it needs to be noted here as well, was the lack of Javonte Williams being able to play the entire game. He was questionable for a while with a shoulder injury. And Dak didn't have that security blanket of knowing that he had a running back in there who could help pick up the blitz. We saw Hunter Lipke a couple of times for as much effort as he gives. He whiffed a couple of times when he should have done a much better job in protection. And that's tough. And then when you think about Malik Davis, he's so small, it's hard for him to hold up. And Dak knew that. And when you put that in there, and you think about a couple of times when there were play calls for screen passes that just didn't work and got blown up, I mean, it was a tough sledding night for Dak and that offense.
Well, and you make the point, Joe. So here's what I'm going to tell you from a simplistic standpoint. When you're turning the protection, when everybody is moving one way, that means the back's got to go to that end. He's got to go to that end of the line of scrimmage. Well, they did it a couple of times, but Lipke was way out of his comfort zone. Now, they tried to get to where they had Davis in there, and he tried to step up and block a linebacker, and he just gets run over. So it really is, I mean, everybody wants to talk about running the football in the NFL and having a running back that can run the football. Let me tell you, you better have a running back that can protect, and you better have one that you have the confidence that he's going to protect. Because otherwise, you know what you're hearing? Look out, here he comes.
Yeah, Dak heard that a lot on this night. All right, we're going to take another break, but we got plenty more coming up. It's a tough night for Dak and that offense. Tough night for all you Cowboys fans out there, but we're going to talk you through it. We're going to get you through it. Stick and stay here. It's the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. It's the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. Cowboys lose to the Vikings on this night, 34-26. They fall to 6-7-1 on the season. Their postseason hopes all but done. Looks like the Philadelphia Eagles are going to become the first team to win the NFC East in back-to-back seasons in 2 decades. It looks like it's going to happen. Interesting stat. All right, so Coach, as we think about where the Cowboys are now and how their playoff hopes are all but done, let's talk evaluation. And on this night, I think the running back, Javonte Williams, showed his worth by not being available the entire night. Is he one of those players that you have to say, hey, he needs to be a part of this team moving forward?
I do think he needs to be a part of this team. I think he's shown you that all year, just like I think George Pickens has shown you all year. He needs to be part of this football team. Now, what you got to do in these last 3 games, Joe, is you got to evaluate guys that you want on this football team, knowing that you got early top picks in this draft, and you must bat 1,000 with those picks. So let's throw everybody in there. Jaden Blue, let's throw all of these guys in there and give them an opportunity to play, because that's the only time you're going to get any better is seeing real live reps.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, right? Because you do need to see what, Jaden Blue could do. He's been an awful disappointment on this year. We all expected more out of that player, and he obviously hasn't shown coaches enough. Trahan Diggs, another situation where he's been an awful disappointment this entire season. I suspect that the only thing that Cowboy fans need to know about him is the fact that if he's a post-June 1 cut, he will knock off $15.5 million on the salary cap. I think that will be a divorce sooner than later. But there are other players that you have to talk about. And I don't want to gloss over George Pickens, Coach, because when you think about these last couple of weeks, Pickens has not shown up. The effort issues came up in the Lions game, not so much in this game. He was out there playing hard, but again, not as much production. So how do you grade the season that Pickens has? Because up until these last couple of weeks, he has been amongst the best in the NFL.
Yeah, and I'm not going to take last week a guy that geared it down when he saw a safety come over the top to help. I'm not dinging him there, because guess what? Every receiver in the league is going to do that. Now, did I hate it that he didn't drive into that comeback? Yes. But I think those are things where you take him in and you show him in those situations, George, here's what we need out of you. We're in this football game, and I know you're getting over the top help, but guess what? We may have to come to you with a 50-50 ball, having the confidence in you, and we need to know that you're busting it. If you're gassed, we'll get somebody else in the game for you, but we need you 100% of the time. And when he's there, he's shown you what he can do opposite of CeeDee Lamb. And so I think that's a challenge situation as far as how I would coach him, what I would do, because I don't ding him at all. I think he was He understood what he was doing, which was his job, drawing double coverage. So I'm not dinging him. I'm more involved in wanting to see what have we got in the rest of these guys? Is Kalen Carson really going to be a corner you can count on? And those are the things I want to see. Continue to see Ravel play a bunch. I need to see all of that.
All right, great stuff. Appreciate it. We're going to get a quick wrap here. We got a final word coming up next. Thanks, Coach. Great stuff as always. Appreciate you.
Cowboys with another tough loss tonight, but Joe, you know what they say. It ain't over till it's over. I think that 0.1% chance of the playoffs still does exist.
Cowboys win out, Eagles lose out.
You're saying there's a chance.
I'm actually saying there's not a chance.
Okay, yeah.
And unfortunately, a disappointing season ends with yet another disappointment on Sunday Night Football. Cowboys fans, there is next year. And on that note, we're going to say goodnight, and we're going to say thank you so much for joining us on the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show. For Michelle Montaine, I'm Joe Trahan. Have a fantastic evening, everyone.
This has been the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, sponsored by your North Texas Chevy dealers. Together, let's drive.